Welcome. Thanks so much for clicking to view this on-demand session. My name's Harry and I work here at Kolide. And over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to take you on a journey of how we've arrived at today. I'm going to share with you some of the insights that we worked out and understood in order to be able to bring our device trust solution to market. But that's not all. I'm also going to show you our solution. I'll introduce you to Morgan and Jez, who work at Upsprint, our fictional company, as Morgan, our IT administrator, goes about ensuring that only secured devices are able to access company SaaS applications. Now, at any time, if you have any questions, feel free to hit the chat bot in the bottom right of our website, and I'll be sure to write back as quickly as I can. And with that, let's begin. Workplace reliance on SaaS has exploded. In fact, in a lot of organizations now, all of their applications are in the cloud. And I've put some fairly conservative numbers on this slide. You might find you're discovering a new SaaS application across the organization every week. Now, when you multiply the number of users by the number of SaaS applications you have, you quickly work out that you're only one compromised SSO away from a rather uncomfortable situation. But hey, SaaS is fantastic. In fact, I'm not even pretending that in most situations there is a locally hosted option, because there isn't. Let's talk about what we love about SaaS applications. First of all, we love their ubiquitous access. We love the fact that users from day one can log in from pretty much any device, any location. And we love the fact that they're paired with excellent security. Your data is securely stored in a way that probably isn't achievable if we try to even do it in-house. And now, as a result, all of the company's data lives in these cloud applications. Now, what started out as a great feature, this ubiquitous access, has over time become their greatest liability. Because if you know the user's credentials, you can probably log in most companies from any location on any device and download all that data. And that's making it too easy for bad actors to be able to breach SaaS applications. So, device trust is about trying to solve which devices have access. Now, the first answer that most people conclude is, can we permit only known devices? And a lot of the solutions on the market today, including Okta's, drive this approach. You can install a certificate on the device, and if the certificate is found during login, the user is authenticated. But if the certificate is not found, then the user cannot get through. On the surface, this seems like a reasonable approach. Once you've overcome some of the hurdles with certificate installation and expiry, you're ready to go. But hold on a second. Let's have a look at how that works. As you can see, Alonso's MacBook is known. We found the certificate, so it's a company-owned device. But if we actually look under the hood of Alonso's device, we see there are a number of issues, which means the device is not in a state by which we would want to grant access to our SaaS applications. And so we're not afforded the luxury where known equals trusted. But okay, you might say to me, Harry, relax. We have an MDM solution, which means we can automate a lot of the solving of these issues. In fact, let's take the first one. Mac OS is missing important updates. Let's have a look at how automation can solve that problem for us. Here we are. We have an engineer. They've been coding for 3 hours and they're deep into their project. And they get this helpful notification from their MDM letting them know that they've got an update that needs to be installed and therefore their device is about to be restarted. Now let's imagine this situation goes well and the engineer says, IT, bravo. You knew exactly that I was going to have a meeting in 5 minutes and this was the perfect moment to restart my device. Thank you so much. I'll pop into the kitchen, grab myself a coffee, come back, and I'll be ready for my meeting. Except she comes back to her computer and sees this screen. And as we know, MDM is contextually deaf. It has no idea what the user is doing when it forces the restart. And as a result, a lot of IT teams have backed off trying to do forced restarts with MDM because of the bad user experience it drives. Now, a lot of organizations have taken another approach, saying, hang on, we'll push MDM forced restart way into the future, 3 or 4 weeks. and will nudge people and nudge people and nudge people and nudge people until they do the update themselves, hoping they don't leave it to the deadline of the automatic restart. And we haven't even talked about browser updates yet. So when we looked at other device trust solutions, we felt like they all equally sucked. We've talked about how known doesn't equal trusted, users getting stuck. This really is enemy number one. It's simply not acceptable to lock a user out and they have no path to redemption. What can a user do if Okta doesn't find the certificate on their device? Absolutely nothing. At best, they can hope the IT team didn't put Okta in front of their email service so they can actually log in and send an email about the issue. And even if you overcome these, you still don't get the level of flexibility and the depth in checks that are necessary to meet the modern day compliance standards that you're looking to achieve. Okay, now I'm excited to talk to you about the promised land and paint that together with you now. We recognize that Kolide was uniquely placed to enter the device trust market for two reasons. The first reason is our extensive history in device posture checking and attestation. We really understand devices, whether Windows, Linux, or Mac. But second, and probably more importantly, we really believe in the end user. We know that when the end user is empowered with context, education, and appropriate consequence, that they are the best custodian of that device, and that they are in the best position to make that device compliant, because only they really understand the context in which that device is being used. So, first point, when end users have agency over their machine in order to do their job, it's extremely positive. But that's not all. We also understand that companies are obligated to ensure security requirements before devices are granted access. But here's a little secret that we've discovered. Most companies are already failing at this. They've made commitments to customers through their contracts and their compliance standards to ensure that only secure devices are accessing customer data, whilst at the same time they're allowing access from personal devices, unknown devices, who knows what devices. And that's because there isn't a solution out there today which allows you to gate access from insecure devices. And Kolide's going to solve that with this presentation today. So we know we need to bring both of these things together in order for device trust to be successful, and perhaps that's why device trust hasn't really taken off until now. So when we went to the drawing board last summer and thought about how Kolide could solve this, we identified 4 key milestones that we would want to overcome to be comfortable bringing a solution to market. And I'm going to share those with you now before I demonstrate the solution. First, we know that any solution that we bring to market has to seamlessly integrate with existing authentication. We know that companies have pretty well solved user authentication. They can be certain that when a user is requesting access to a system, it is in fact them. We have knowledge factors, possession factors, biometric factors. We're all good there. So we cannot disrupt that flow. We also know that access to critical resources must only be possible from known and verified devices. We want to look under the hood every time a device is trying to authenticate to make sure it's in the right state. Number 3, users can never be stuck. They must always have a path to redemption, and we must always give them the tools and the instructions to easily self-solve any issue. And number 4, this cannot come at the expense of IT resources. It's unacceptable to us that a user might lose productivity and at the same time have to create new work for someone in IT. So, are you ready? Because we're about to see it firsthand. Time for the demo. Allow me to introduce Morgan and Jez. These guys work at Upsprint, which is our hypothetical demo company where athletes can send in their training data and receive back customized training programs. Now, Morgan is our IT admin, and it's Morgan's responsibility to make sure that any device trying to access sensitive company data in cloud applications meets the company's compliance standards. And Jez is our end user. Jez is our HR partner, and he uses Zendesk to be able to manage applications and job postings. And so later, we'll see what it's like when Jez tries to log into Zendesk when it's protected by Kolide. First, allow me to explain what we're going to cover in today's demo. We're going to reach 100% patching across the Upsprint fleet in a matter of days and not weeks. And we're going to do this by giving users agency, context, and consequence that makes sense. So to break it down in more details, here's what we'll do. First, I'm going to start as Morgan, and I'm going to log into the Kolide portal as an admin and configure some of the blocks. Then I'm going to use grace periods to set appropriateness for anything that I want to be resolved. Then we'll switch over to Jez and we'll actually try to log in to a SaaS application. As I talked about already, we're going to use Zendesk. We'll resolve the issues that are presented to Jez and we'll carry on into Zendesk. So with that, I'm going to swipe on over, and here I am as Morgan logged into the Kolide admin portal. And you can see that as indicated by the M in the top right corner. And at the moment, I'm looking at Jez Wiley's device. I can see it's registered to Jez. And I can see that his status is currently all good. And what that's telling me is when Jez tries to authenticate through Okta, he will pass right through Kolide without issue. But hold on a second. I see down here in the bottom right, there are a whole host of issues, which means Jez's device is actually not in a compliant state. So why is he able to authenticate? Well, at the moment, these are set to report only, as indicated by the gauge icon next to them. I need to fix that. So I'm going to log in to checks. And as I can see, I'm presented with all of the checks that are available in Kolide. And off the shelf, we have about 100 across Windows, Linux, and Mac. But the great part is, customers of Kolide can actually write their own checks. So you can look for any device property or attribute that's important to you and your organization. But today, I just have a couple that I need to solve. So I'm going to filter them down. The first one I'm going to start with is require remote login to be off. At Upsprint, we don't want employees to have remote login enabled on their device. There's no good reason for it, and it creates a backdoor potentially for attackers to get in. So we're going to ask all of our employees to turn that off before they can authenticate into Okta. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to configure the blocking. I'm going to turn it on to block devices that are failing this immediately. And it's warning me, it's saying, hey Morgan, if you hit save now, 2 of your devices will be immediately blocked the next time they try to authenticate. But you haven't warned the end user yet, and you might want to do that. So you can introduce temporary warnings to allow the user to have a bit of a heads up before you actually block them. I don't need to do that for this session here, so I'm going to hit save. The next one we need to do is Mac OS updates. But let's talk about that a little. We don't know when updates are going to come out. Apple could push one right now. They could also push one at 3 in the morning, and therefore it's not practical to block the whole organization when they come into work the next day because an update was pushed out in the middle of the night. So I can address that with grace periods. Because updates are quite disruptive to the end user, you have to restart your machine and go offline for a period of time, I want to give them a window in which they can fix this. And we've seen some of our customers reduce this as low as 3 days before end users have pushed back and said it's not enough time. So I'm going to leave it at 3 days here and allow users a 3-day grace period by which they will be warned that there is an update pending and it will block them, but they don't have to fix it immediately if it's not a good time for them. So I'm going to hit save on that one. Great. I've finished everything I need to do as Morgan in the Kolide admin portal, and now I can switch over to be Jez to log into Zendesk. So here we are. I'm trying to log into Zendesk and it's protected by Okta. So the first thing it asks me for is my username. So I'm just going to put Jez in. And the next thing Okta will do is ask me to authenticate. And I'll start with a knowledge factor and I'll start with a password. So I'm just going to swipe on over into 1Password and copy that out of there. Next, I'm going to paste that into Okta and satisfy the knowledge requirement. The next thing it's telling me is saying, great, but you still need to authenticate with Kolide. You cannot get into Zendesk yet until we verify that your device is in a compliant state. Okay, I'm going to hit verify. And Okta is going to hand the authentication over to Kolide. I still can't log into Zendesk, as you can see. And the reason I can't is because I have remote login enabled. Now, I don't really know what that means, and I don't understand how to turn it off. So if I click details, Kolide always gives users rich and easy to understand instructions to resolve any issue. You can include video, pictures, deep link, GIFs, or text in these instructions. And as I can see here, it's telling me how to turn off remote login. I just need to go to System Preferences under the Apple logo. I just need to go to Sharing. And as I can see, I've got remote login enabled. I'm going to disable that. And I'm going to come back here. And I think I've completed this. So all I need to do now is say, I fixed it, recheck now. Now Kolide is going to run a fresh query to my device in real time to determine if I have in fact fixed that issue or not. And as I can see, I now get a green tick. But hold on a second. At the bottom, I'm being warned that in 2 days, I will be blocked because my Mac is not up to date. And I can choose to fix this now or fix it later, but in 2 days, I will have to fix it. I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to complete the sign-in process. And here I am into Zendesk, ready to have a look at some of those applicants that have come in. Great. Let's go back to the deck and let's see what we did there. So excitingly, we really took a user-first approach to device compliance. We reached areas of compliance that were not previously possible because they required the end user's involvement. We reduced patching cycles down to days and not weeks, and that's possible both across OS and common applications like Google Chrome, Firefox, Zoom, or Slack. We empowered and educated users with context, instructions, and importantly gave them agency that made them feel empowered to be responsible for the device. And lastly, we respected the user's needs with grace periods and exemption management. So it's been great for me to take you through a device trust solution for Okta customers. We think it's a new superpower, and we're excited to ask and answer any questions you have about it.